yet you and I, if we're honest, we know the deepest needs and longings of our heart are never really met. Maybe they can be satisfied for a short period of time, or we can be distracted by them, but we keep having to get up each day, and we're faced with our need, right? I still get hungry, I still get tired, I still get cranky, I still get older, I still wish I could go to the gym more, right? I still wish I could do things to make myself feel better and take care of myself, and yet I'm constantly faced with the lack of I have it to fulfill myself. He goes through several things, wealth, pleasure, vocation, your job. He goes through even religiosity, right? Going to church and doing all the right things that people try to do to find meaning. And he says they're all heaven. In chapter 6, he talks about how they all result in one common trait, that is the dissatisfaction of our heart. They ultimately all let us down. And 7 and 8, chapter 7 and 8, he goes into how he thinks we should address it. He said, look, if you want to actually know how to live well, you need wisdom. You need insight, right? And you need to know where to go to get wisdom and insight, and not just be trying your best and keeping the hectic rigmarole of life up. And so that was chapter 7 and 8. And he identifies knowing wisdom as the key for finding meaning and the necessary insight for life. And chapter 8 ends this way. Okay, and I think you guys should have Bibles and your pews are underneath the chairs. If you want to follow along, you can. We might have it up here. I don't know how many verses it's got there. This is the end of chapter 8, verses 16 and 17. Now, when I applied my mind to know wisdom and to observe the labor that is done on earth, people getting no sleep day or night, then I saw all that God has done. No one can comprehend what goes on under the sun, despite all their efforts to search it out. No one can discover its meaning. Even if the wise claim they know, they can't really comprehend it, right? And this is where we're directed now. We're saying, all right, so this is a little bit the end of wisdom. We can say that your wisdom is good, my wisdom is good. We're trying to put it all together, but he uses that phrase, people getting no sleep. And I think what he's doing here is he's confirming what we already know. We have these major, this is beyond the major existential questions of life. This is just, how do we find purpose in our daily life? This isn't like, what's the meaning of life so I'm satisfied? This is just like, how do I feel good and find some satisfaction in the life that I've been given? And basically, we should be asking this question, because even as Christians, right, and many of you have probably been faced with this question, if you believe that God is good and present in the world, we go, okay, well, why is it such a struggle? Like, shouldn't I, if I'm on Team Jesus, like, shouldn't it just be better? And yet we find that it's not just better. So what are the things that are really facing, that are getting in the way of our wisdom being enough? And in chapter 9, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about 3 topics that he tackles. And they are death, fate or chance, and time. Okay? Death, time, and chance is what we're going to be talking about. And let's begin with the first one, death, right? So you and I have grown up in a world with where we don't know the future, right? It's why we struggle when we're deciding what school to go to. It's why we struggle if we should take a job or not. It's why we struggle even if we're choosing a church, right? Because we don't know the future. We don't know the absolute ramifications of our actions. So we hedge. You and I will try to make good, healthy decisions so that we can reap the best reward, right? We're used to systems of rewards and punishment. You eat your food as a little kid, you get dessert. You clean your room, you get to go out and play. You do chores, and you get an allowance. Okay. Adults, you do your work, you get a paycheck, you pay your taxes, you don't get fined, you obey the law, you don't go to jail, right? These are the rewards and or punishments of living within a certain system of rules. And I think naturally, you and I look to apply this to death. We think, well, death's a bad thing. What do I have to do to avoid the bad thing? And sometimes we just take this very physically, right? We're like, I'm going to buy the best anti-aging cream, and I'm going to get a trainer at the gym, and I'm going to eat healthy. Anybody watch Parks and Rec in here? All right? Okay, there's like 4 of us. All right, you guys will get this. You know, Chris is a character in Parks and Rec, and he's this guy who he does everything he can, and one of his lines in the early seasons is he's like, I think, doctors say that the first human who's going to live to be 150 years old is alive today. I believe I am that. Right? Because he knows everything about his body, and he does everything he can possibly do to avoid the struggling and trials of life. But then he freaks out when he gets sick, and he doesn't know what to do, and his world falls apart, right? But it's also beyond that. It's beyond just the physical things we do. Sorry, this is me getting off on a tangent of Parks and Rec. It was in my spot. Right. So we try to obey the rules, and we know that works, but there's also these God questions, right? We apply this to death, where we think, if I just obey God enough and do the right things, then God will stop the bad thing from happening to me. In this case, death. And we know that doesn't really make sense, but we sort of live like that anyway. But the teacher in the beginning of the chapter, verse 1 says, so I reflected on all that's included, that the righteous and the wise and what they do are in God's hands. But no one knows what awaits them. He said, you can't tell, right? These are positions of faith, and we have to make choices and do the best we can. But what do we know, right? Righteousness and wisdom, making good health decisions, these are good things. Yet death doesn't work the way that all of these reward and punishment systems seem to work on earth, right? Verse 2, all share a common destiny. The righteous and the wicked, the good and the bad, the clean and the unclean, those who offer sacrifices and those who do not. So question, who dies? Everybody, all right? He says, are you a good person? Sorry, you're going to die. You a bad person? Also going to die. Okay? Are you offering sacrifices at the temple? Are you looking at what God has asked of you? And are you doing everything right? Guess what? You get to die. Okay? Have you just ignored God your whole life? Also get to die. All right, this is getting pretty morbid, right? Nobody likes this, right? It's like, these are the things that we don't want to talk about, but this is his overarching point that he begins with. As it is with the good, so it is with the sinful. As it is with those who take oaths, so those who are afraid to take them. And he goes on. He doesn't like this, right? Verse 3. This is the evil in everything that happens under the sun. The same destiny overtakes all. Anyone who is among the living has hope. Even a live dog is better than a dead lion. And this may sound weird, because we're like, what's the whole lion dog thing about? But I think he's saying this. Life is good, right? God has given us this life, and it's good, yet it seems to at the end with this terrible thing. So what's the point of life ahead of time? And I think in his example here, a live dog is better than a dead lion. He's saying, death ends all our temporal identities, right? So in life, the lion feels pretty good, right? You put this in human terms, right? You got the Wall Street executive, you got all the money and the fine clothes, whatever. The lion is strutting around doing his thing, all right? And he feels really good about himself. But in death, there's this great equalizer, and there's a hope that comes with life. And he doesn't tell us what kind of dog to imagine, so I want you to imagine one of those really, and I'm sorry if you're a little dog person, all right? Just go with me here. But I want you to imagine one of those little tiny dogs that just like sits in the window. It's like just yapping, like in its mind thinks it is a huge animal to be reckoned with. And I was thinking about this is a side note too, but I was thinking about this the other day. Anybody ever gone to a place where there's a lot of feral dogs? I have. I've traveled several places where there's a lot of feral dogs. And the interesting thing, there's never any little tiny yappy dogs that are feral dogs. You know? Why is that? Because they are little and stupid and annoying. Okay? Sorry. Alright? No. They might be good, right? They might be good. I'm not against the Lord. But this is the point, right? He's saying it is better to be the little stupid yappy dog than the dead lion. Why? What's he getting at? Right? Why is he giving this kind of weird, extreme example that paints life like you don't even have to have a great life, but it's better than death? And I think this is what he's getting at, okay? That there's hope in life. And he goes on, he says, verse 5, for the living will know that they will die, but the dead know nothing. They have no further reward, and even their name is forgotten, all right? He's saying that whether you're the lion and you're striving and you're leading the pride, you're leading the pack, and you're doing everything you got to do, you've got power and authority and strength, right? If you're not using that towards a certain end, if you haven't learned from death, it doesn't matter. But as long as you're alive, you have the opportunity to go, okay, maybe I can start reverse engineering my life. I can start thinking about this. I can start going, I know that death is coming. I can't avoid it. So what does that mean now? There's an opportunity for wisdom here. Life affords you the opportunity to reconsider your actions and your situation in the here and now, right? He's saying that there's no further reward in death, right? This whole system of rewards and punishments that you and I live with, he's saying it doesn't work that way. In death, that's it. So take the time you have now. And he says, in time even your name is forgotten. And this brings us to the second obstacle that we face, time. Okay? In verse 6, he says, their love, just speaking of people, right? Their love, their hate, and their jealousy have long since vanished. Never again will they have part in anything that happens under the sun. And he's basically saying that everything we do is lost in time. Anybody have any significant memories from childhood or something like that? Maybe you think on sometimes that maybe you haven't shared with a lot of other people? I have. I think you probably all spent time really thinking about it. I think you can come up with some. When I was 5, I won a turtle limbo competition at Moulton's Skate America in Wisconsin, just so you know. I got a little gold trophy. For the turtle limbo, it's this little scooter thing that you do this so it keeps moving and gets momentum, and then you had to go under a little bar. I'm pretty sure I won because I was cute. I think that's why I won. I was a cute little kid who was trying really hard. I think that's why I won the trophy. I didn't know that at the time. All right? I just thought, boy, I think I won. I don't know what I did, but I got a trophy. And I'll tell you what, I felt really good about that trophy. All right? I kept that trophy for years till I realized it meant nothing. All right? But I felt really good about it as a little kid because that was my world. When I was 13, I umped a baseball game. It was a tournament game. It was my first game umping. I still feel bad about it to this day. I think I got 9 out of 10 calls wrong that game. The opening game, there was a simple grounder in the infield. Throw beat the guy to the bag by 3 steps, and I'm like, safe. Why did I say safe? I don't know. I just wanted to make a call, and so I just made one. And then I made it, and then I'd look stupid if I changed it, so I just did it. Went on to do that all game long, right? Another guy missed the tag by probably 4 feet, called him out. Just make a call, right? You're an ump. Why do I tell you these things? These are stories that I still think about today that had an emotional impact on me. I don't even actually know if anybody else knows those stories at all. But they were formative to me. And now you know them too, all right? But my point is this. Time passing, my experience, it matters to me. But if I didn't tell you that story, and even if I did tell you that story, those stories are going to be gone someday. They'll be gone. It's as if they never happened, unless my life was headed somewhere. Because time does that to us. And it doesn't just happen to us individually, where our lives are lost to time. It happens to us communally, too. There's this in chapter 9, verses 13 through 16, the teacher gives us this short story. He says, I also saw under the sun this example of wisdom that greatly impressed me. There was once a small city with only a few people in it, and a powerful king came against it, surrounded it, built huge siege works against it. Now there lived in that city a man poor but wise, and he saved the city by his wisdom. But nobody remembered the poor man. So I said, wisdom is better than strength. But the poor man's wisdom is despised, and his words are no longer heeded. So you would think in a story like this, that information would last. This wise man saved a city from, even just in an art of war type book, right? Somebody should have preserved this knowledge and wisdom, and yet it didn't happen. Why do generations dismiss one another? Now, I'm a millennial. I'm a really old millennial, but people hate us, so I'm going to use us as an example, all right? There's all sorts of fun articles out there about why millennials are the worst, and they're sort of right. But I want to share with you some similar quotes that I heard this week. I was reading through some articles. This one. The young people of today think of nothing but themselves. They have no respect for their parents or old age. They are impatient of all restraint. They talk as if they alone know everything, and what passes for wisdom in us, foolishness to them. As for the girls, they are foolish and immodest and unwomanly in speech, behavior, and dress. You know who wrote this? A guy named Peter the Hermit in the 11th century. All right? Those young kids. All right? I see no hope for the future of our people. If they are dependent on the frivolous youth of today, for certainly all youth are reckless beyond words. When I was young, we were taught to be discreet and respectful of elders, but the present youth are exceedingly disrespectful and impatient of restraint. A guy named Hesiod in the 8th century said that. And I'll give you one more. Our earth is degenerate in these latter days. There are no signs that the world is speedily coming to an end. Bribery and corruption are common. Children no longer obey their parents. Every man wants to write a book, and the end of the world is evidently approaching. This was written on an Assyrian clay tablet in 2800 BC. Okay? We have this tendency to look at the next generation and say, boy, there, might as well just burn the world down now. All right? Because they're going to ruin it. And then we look at the previous generation and say, boy, they were stupid. Look at all their mistakes. We will fix them. All right? We have this incredible amount of respect for ourselves, and pretty much nobody else that doesn't see the world exactly like we do. There was this quote from the dystopian writer George Orwell this week. He said, every generation imagines itself to be more intelligent than the one that was before it, and wiser than the one that comes after it. And this is the truth. Time limits our ability to test our own wisdom. We only have so much time, and we have to make decisions, and some of the decisions that were made before were dumb. And some of the ones that will be made by future generations are dumb. But we have a tendency to say, no, all I have to do, because of time, is rely on my own wisdom. The problem with that is that we don't even understand ourselves. Whatever we think is most important, and this is true in our own lives, right? What you think is the most important thing in your life right now was probably not the most important thing 20 years ago. It probably won't be the most important thing 20 years from now. When you were a small child, the most important thing in the world was maybe like popsicles and Paw Patrol. All right, I realize Paw Patrol wasn't around yet. But like, this is it, right? Like, we have tendency to say, my world revolves around these things. These are the most important things. And as an adult, you're like, those are the dumbest things. So much is done for you, you don't know. As a teenager, you're like, boys, girls, parties, dressing, looking good. Like, this is the most important thing in the world because this is what my world revolves around. Looking at you. All right? Just kidding, sorry. No, this is what we do. I'm looking at myself. That's how I live, right? That's how what we do. And then when you look back later and you're like, that meant so much less than I thought. I thought it was important. It's not that they're not important things, right? Kids' comfort, relationships, interacting with your peers, like these are good things. We do the same thing when we're adults, right? Like, as you're an adult, I can look back and say, your family, your hobbies, these are important things. Maybe you want to get abs, right? 20 years from now, that'll still be your goal, to get abs, right? But we have these things where we're like, our minds are small and our passions are often misplaced. And we often ignore the wisdom of past generations and future generations because we think we have it figured out because we're the most recent ones. The truth is, if we were able to solve those things, time and death even, we probably wouldn't have the future world. In verses, he goes on in verse 11, he says, I've seen something else under the sun. The race is not to the swift, or the battle to the strong, nor does food come to the wise, or wealth to the brilliant, or favor to the learned, but time and chance happen to them all. Moreover, no one knows when their hour will come. As fish are caught in a cruel net, or birds are taken in the snare, so people are trapped by evil times and fall unexpectedly upon them. His point is that we have, while we have hindsight, we can look back and say, oh, that's where I screwed up, this is what I should have done. We don't have foresight. We can't say for sure this is how we can fix our world. And I think it's probably worth saying that it's not saying that God doesn't have control over death, or God isn't bigger than time, or God doesn't have providence, that God doesn't have a role in fate and chance. But what he's saying is that the way you and I experience the world exemplifies our weaknesses. We are subject to death. We are subject to time. We are subject to chance and fate because we don't have the control to be able to put our lives together the way we would like. And so we're left wondering why. Why would God allow death, fate, and time to have such control over us? And in 9:3 he says this, the hearts of people, moreover, are full of evil, and there is madness in their hearts while they live. And afterwards they join the dead. And some of you are probably offended by that, because it's offensive, right? We're kind of like, oh man, being full of evil and madness, that doesn't seem quite right. And we struggle with this because how many of you guys have heard the term total depravity before? Okay? Quite a few, right? For those of you who aren't familiar, total depravity is this idea that's come out of Christian doctrine over time, this idea that Christians, that people in general, are totally depraved. We have a sinful nature. We're unable to do good on our own. And this is offensive to people because I think quite often the response that we hear, and I assume go, man, but I know all sorts of people. Christians, non-Christians, race, gender, background like this, who do good things, right? How can you say that they don't do good things? And I want to clarify it. I think we haven't done a good job talking about it. What that even means. What we're not saying here, and I think what the teacher isn't saying here, the message of Christianity, and I believe the message of the teacher is this. It's not that it's that you and I are made in the image of a good God, right? A God who loves, a God who gives, a God who cares, a God who designs people to be in intimate relationship with Him and others. So naturally, these are actually things that people want. The problem is, and the problem with sin in our world, is we cross those wires at some point. And instead of relying on God's wisdom and power and love, we rely on our wisdom and power and love. And what this means is that while we give ourselves to good things, we don't have the foresight and fortitude to carry them through in a way that we're actually going to bear fruit. We organize community events. We build political systems. We try to love our neighbors and to do things and to have dialogue. And we see this in our culture. These are good things. People do want good things for themselves and others. But why do they so often end up corrupted? And most of the time we can always look back and say, it was this person or that person, or this is why I fell apart, or this is why I fell apart. But the problem is humanity has been doing this since our creation, and we haven't found the utopia yet. And I think that's what the teacher's getting at. I think that's what the wisdom of Christianity is getting at, is that while we want so badly to fix our world, our wisdom isn't enough because of this sickness that's in us, sin. In verse 18, he says, wisdom is better than weapons of war, but one sinner destroys much good. And we all know that, right? You can all think of several people in your life where you're like, that thing they did to me undermined so much else. It hurt me, or it hurt this system, or it hurt this organization, or it hurt this group. Because we know that people do this. You can maybe even think of your own sin, your own issues. I was actually just repenting of this earlier today. I'm often hit by, if I met people that I went to college with, or went to high school with, how I don't want to say I'm sorry to those people. I'm sorry for the way I treated you out there, right? I'm sorry for the way I treated people. I'm sorry for the words I said, the way I treated them, the way I thought about them. And I get to see some of this now in retrospect, but I didn't even understand what I was doing at the time. But my sin caused me to undermine so much good. He goes on in chapter 10, and we'll wrap up here. He goes on in chapter 10, he says, as dead flies give perfume to a bad smell, so a little folly outweighs much wisdom and honor. And in verse 4 he says, if a ruler's anger rises, do not leave your post. Calmness can lay great offense to rest. And what he's saying is there are natural negative ramifications to bad situations. We all understand that when we do bad things and bad things are done to us, or in bad situations, bad things result. And we risk. We're in constant risk of that in this world. This is neither here nor there, but something I always remember. There's a verse here. I think it's in verse 9. It says, "Whoever splits logs may be endangered by them." And I have a scar right here from cutting logs, removing a big trunk into a tree, and I dropped it, bumped up, shot up in the tailgate, and took me out. And probably needed stitches. Didn't get it, but it healed. I had another example when I was a kid. My brother was about 17. We had wood burning stove. We were chopping wood in the backyard. My brother was standing about right there, just chopping wood. I was out of the way, I thought. My mom's standing right here. He brings the axe down, comes out, hits a knot, and just goes, and I felt the blade touch my eyelashes. Ooh. As it swung right through, and we all went, whoo! And then realized, I still have my eyes. I'm not dead. That would have been super scarring, huh? If you put an axe through your brother's head, right? But we have these moments where, like, things could go very poorly in our world. And it's true of other things. It's verses 12 through 14. It's true of interpersonal relationships. I won't take the time to go through it, but it's true of interpersonal relationships. We know we can hurt one another. It's true of governance, right? When we have poor governance. It's true of our work when we're, verse 18, when we're lazy, it says the rafter sag, right? We need to take care of the world that we live in. We live in a world of decay where there's risk, where we can't mitigate all these things around us because of the brokenness to our world. And then the hard part is that, like, sin is the problem. We are part of the problem. We don't like to admit it, but we are part of the problem in this world. And so we have to ask, what do we do? What's our solution? And I think it's not what most people expect. I think when we hear a message sometimes like this, we think, well, that was super depressing. I'm going to go home and sit in the dark and cry for a while. Is that the message of the Word of God? But if you look at what the teacher says, he says, for all of us, verses 7 through 10, it says, "Go eat your food with gladness, and drink your wine with a joyful heart. For God has already approved of what you do. Always be clothed in white, and always anoint your head with oil. Enjoy life with your wife, whom you love, all the days of this meaningless life that God has given you under the sun, all your meaningless days. For this is your lot in life, and in your toilsome labor under the sun, whatever your hands find to do, do with all your might." And his conclusion is this: it's live. Okay? It's enjoy good food and drink. It's dress well and take care of yourself and be healthy. It's enjoy relationships, friends and family and marriage and kids. Enjoy it. Do it, right? Because God has given you good things. There's hard work to be done in life, and go and do it and receive satisfaction for what you can accomplish, right? Chapter 11 goes on talking about investing in many ventures. But it also says you don't know what disaster may come upon the land. It's also know that you're limited. Saying, go and live, but know that this life has to be headed somewhere. You have to have direction to your life because it ends at death. Because time does catch up with you. Because you don't know the future. And every day can be your last. My brother slips a little bit, and I'm not here today. And we've never met. And you don't know me. Because I was put to rest 20 years ago. And we don't know. Last week we talked about, so as Christians, we ask what we do. And last week we talked about how Jesus is talked about in the New Testament as the wisdom of God. We talked about how we need to find out. So what do? We need wisdom, but our wisdom isn't enough. What do? And we say, look, our minds can't comprehend the all creation and all knowing and all suffering and how it all fits together. But what we can do is we can look at the wisdom of God on display for us. And that's the person of Jesus Christ, right? His love. He was the immortal one who faced death for you. He was the omnipotent one, right? The all-powerful one who faced weakness for you. He was the omnipresent one, right? Who could be all places and all times, who faced time and chance and decay for you. Jesus was fueled by the love of God and saw this life as an opportunity to share a deeper love with others, to know a deeper love in his person, in the ups and downs, in the trials and the suffering, in the satisfaction and in the dissatisfaction. To know that you are not alone. The story that you're living is not just your story. And that death and time and chance are under the dominion of someone else. And God can overcome those things in your life, now and eternally. And he wants to reverse engineer your life here, so that it doesn't just end, but that it has reverberations eternally. Know him, know the King, know his goodness, and know that he wants to redeem the darkness and bring light into this world. Let's go ahead and pray.